Open mind portraits. What are open mind portraits? To think more deeply about a character and reflect on story events from the character's viewpoint, students draw open mind portraits of the character. These portraits have two parts: the character's face on the top portrait page and several thinking pages showing the character's mind at pivotal points in the story. As students draw open mind portraits, they are visually representing characters and their thoughts. Why use this instructional strategy? Students make open mind portraits to focus on the main character in stories they're reading. It's a powerful way to examine character because as students draw portraits, they recall the appearance details the author included in the story, and as they complete the thinking pages, they review story events and analyze the theme as they consider the character's activities and motivation. Common Core State Standards. Open mind portraits support these Common Core state standards for reading literature. Students comprehend grade-appropriate literature. Students analyze a character, drawing on specific details in the text. Students explain how a series of chapters fit together to provide the overall structure of a story. Overall, students make open mind portraits to understand literature they're reading. How to use open mind portraits. Students make individual open mind portraits while they're reading a story or immediately afterward and then share their portraits with classmates. Teachers follow this procedure. Step 1. Make a portrait of a character. Students draw and color a large portrait of the head and neck of a character in a story they're reading. Step 2. Cut out the portrait and thinking pages. Students cut out the portrait and attach it with a brad or staple on top of several more sheets of drawing paper. It's important that students place the fastener at the top of the portrait so that there's space available to draw and write on the thinking pages. Step 3. Design the thinking pages. Students lift the portrait and draw and write about the character's thoughts on the thinking pages. They show the character's thoughts at key points in the story. Step 4. Share the completed open mind portraits. Students share their portraits with classmates and talk about the words and pictures they chose to include on the thinking pages. This image shows the 2 pages of a 4th grader's open mind portrait on Sarah, the mail-order bride in the novel Sarah Plain and Tall, taken from our 50 Strategies textbook on page 78. The words and pictures on the thinking page represent her thoughts at the end of the story. When to use this instructional strategy. Students create open mind portraits to think more deeply about a character in a story they're reading in literature focus units and literature circles. They often reread parts of the story to recall specific details about the character's appearance before they draw the portrait. And they may write several entries in a simulated journal to start thinking from the character's viewpoint before making the thinking pages of the open mind portrait. In addition to making open mind portraits of characters and stories they're reading, students can make open mind portraits of historical figures as part of social studies units and of well-known personalities after reading biographies. I read the article Using Open Mind Portraits as a Springboard to Expository Text Writing by Kelly P. Paquette and Susan E. Fellow. The article describes a classroom teacher eager to get her students interested in expository topics and writing about them. Knowing her students' interest in drawing, she was confident that the open mind portrait strategy would help develop her students' expository writing skills. Students may struggle with comprehension as they move from the classic story elements of narrative text to content-rich expository text. A broad selection of children's literature, improved expository text materials, and appropriate internet resources contribute to better classroom instruction and help young learners make the transition from narrative text to expository text. Providing exposure to a variety of expository resources creates motivation, encourages higher level thinking, and promotes student inquiry. The visual imagery component of the open mind portrait is appealing to many learners. Incorporation of the open mind portrait technique may help students make the vital connection from narrative to expository texts. Rutzel and Cooter state, making visual images within the mind as one reads provides an effective framework for organizing, remembering, and constructing meaning from text. The portrait enables students to organize their thoughts in a pattern, which serves as an effective springboard to writing. I also read the article, Guided Comprehension in Grades 3 through 8 by Maureen McLaughlin and Mary Beth Allen. The authors write about a teacher using the novel Twilight by Stephanie Myers in her classroom to get her students engaged and excited about open mind portraits. The teacher guided her students by creating an open mind portrait together for the character Bella based on the events in Chapter 1. The teacher then gave her students more independence as she read Chapter 2 aloud and had the students work with a partner to add to the portrait started for Bella. She used questions such as, how do you think Bella felt when? And when she said, what do you think she was thinking? She helped the students verbalize Bella's thoughts and feelings and then guided them to decide what kind of sketch or symbol they could use to represent her feelings. The teacher had students independently add to their open mind portraits daily during read aloud. At the end of the novel, students then shared and reflected on their open mind portraits by discussing how Bella emerged as a character throughout the story. These images are some examples from the article of open mind portraits created by students for the character Bella. These images are some examples from the article of open mind portraits created by students for the character Meg from the novel A Wrinkle in Time. Students were able to use the open mind portraits to provide ideas for writing about how characters changed through the books. The sketches and symbols provided the students with specific thoughts and feelings, which they were able to use as the basis of their writing. The article also gave ideas for how to incorporate open mind portraits in the classroom in other areas besides read aloud. Students can participate in literature circles, and as they read in small groups, they can record the main character's thoughts and feelings using open mind portraits. They can use the completed portraits as the basis for discussion. Students can participate in reciprocal teaching by using their open mind portraits to summarize the text. They should be able to generate questions and predictions after sharing their portraits with others in their group. Students can use their open mind portraits to question the author of a text. They can read to a specific section of the text, record their interpretations about the character on their open mind portrait, and then use it to discuss key ideas, points for clarification, and author language. With open mind portraits, always remember a few key points. To let your students share and discuss with their peers what they have created. To reflect on how visualizing and inferring a character's thoughts and feelings can help us think more deeply about a character and provide good information for predictions and inferences. And to set new goals for how this strategy can be more beneficial the next time it is used in my classroom. After my research, I began to think about how I can use open mind portraits in my classroom. I have not used this strategy in my classroom, but I am eager to give it a try. At the beginning of the school year, we read the novel Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. The Common Core state standards give the idea for a theme at the beginning of the year using this novel. The theme involves what we all have in common. I would love to use the open mind portrait strategy with this novel and have students illustrate and think about how Opal is feeling at pivotal points in the story. I think it would be a great opportunity for students to see what they have in common with Opal and each other in our classroom. Enjoy this video of a teacher using the open mind strategy to get her students engaged and thinking deeply about the characters from the novel Charlotte's Web by E.B. White.
Class, does anybody know what a portrait is or have any idea what a portrait is?
A portrait is a picture of someone.
Good job. A portrait is a picture of someone. So you can have a portrait or a picture of your family. You go into a lot of houses and you see a picture of a mom and a dad and their kids. Those are portraits. They show people who they are, right? In class, we've been reading Charlotte's Web, and we've begun to get to know the characters very well. Who can tell me who the characters are, who the main characters are in the story?
Wilbur.
Wilbur, good job. Wilbur's one of them. And what about another one? Does anyone know another one?
Charlotte.
Charlotte, good job. So we have Wilbur and Charlotte. Wilbur and Charlotte. What do we know about these characters? What do we know about these characters?
Wilbur's fat.
Wilbur is fat. What is Wilbur? What makes him fat? He's fat because what?
He's a pig.
He's a pig. Good job. So we have Wilbur. We know that he's a fat. He's a pig. What else do we know about Wilbur?
Lonely.
He's a little bit lonely. Now what about Charlotte? What do we know about Charlotte?
She's spider.
She's a spider. What else do we know about Charlotte from our readings?
She's a mom.
She's a mom. So what does that tell us about her character?
She's kind.
She's a kind, right? Good job. There's some great ideas. Alright, today we are going to be taking our characters from our book and we're going to be creating a portrait of these characters. So, what I mean by that is you guys are each going to get a cutout circle, a cutout portrait for our portraits, character portraits. I'm going to show you what we need to be doing on each one of these. I'm going to model the Wilbur character, and you guys can either pick Wilbur or Charlotte to model. Each person, or each of you guys are going to get 2 outlines of the character. On your top outline, you're going to draw all of the physical features of our characters. So if this one is Wilbur, what should we draw on the top? What we can see, what we notice about him.
His ears.
His ears, good job. We can draw little pig ears. What else does Wilbur have? What else
Big
does he
nose.
look like? A big nose. Got some eyes.
You gotta put a mouth on there, under the nose.
And a mouth. Good job. Is he a happy pig?
Yeah.
He's a happy pig. So there's our top. Now I want you guys to put a lot of detail into this. I want you to color it. What colors, put the nose, the mouth, a lot of details. But on the first one, it's just the physical, okay? Physical features, what he looks like. Now on the second one, what I want you guys to be doing is I want you to give me words. What are some words or images that you can draw and write on this portrait that tells me who the character is?
Oink.
Oink, he's a pig.
Because
So we can make some sound. Oink. What else? I have up here in our brainstorming that he was lonely. So how could we draw a picture of Wilbur being lonely?
all by himself.
Can draw him all by himself, right? He is lonely. What other characteristics do we know about him, or did we find out about Wilbur?
He was a prize pig.
He was a prize pig. So what could we do to show a prize pig?
Draw a ribbon.
We can draw a ribbon. And he was the number 1, right?
Thank you.